married until you know who it is that you are. Because you can't find a suitor if you are not the woman you're meant to be. Because then what is that suitor suiting?
This is the Hustler's Corner.
Brothers and sisters, hustlers and squatters all over the world, welcome to another exciting episode of the Hustler's Corner. We're in Johannesburg in South Africa. We're sitting outside in Sandton. So I'm excited for this conversation because the sister that I'm about to chat to, we around the same time we're starting Massive Metro. The digital revolution was in its early days in South Africa before everybody caught on during the lockdowns. The early days, and I remember when Theo from Batu used to come deliver his shoes and boxes, driving a small Polo, no Andrew starting their company. Just a whole lot of us were very entrepreneur conscious, and we're preaching and the message and we're loud about it. But at the time it was early days, and I'm glad that a lot of us are sort of growing in our own respective careers. The last interview you had was at Massive Metro at the digital online radio station. Check it out as well, massivemetro.com. It's an online radio station based in Rosebank, Randburg, Johannesburg, South Africa. So let me give you guys her resume. By the way, go to the description, check all the links that are there. If you're interested in learning crypto, we have partnered up with a company called Yellow Card for them to pay for the services for you to learn the beginner courses for free. What is Bitcoin? What is the blockchain technology? What are NFTs and all of that type of stuff? We've officially partnered with Crypto University South Africa to give you guys our free classes. Those that are interested in real estate development or real estate investment, or you want to become a brand new property owner, there's links there that take you to Ekasi, Noble Property Development. They are brand new partners. We've also have got a whole lot of other partnerships with everybody else. Penuel, the Black Pen, we co-host a Monday show called The Virtual Mkuku. Click on the link there, Virtual Mkuku podcast, subscribe to it. And also you can subscribe to Penuel's platforms, subscribe to my platforms. We'll make sure also in the description, we'll put her links as well. So you can go to her links to her social media platforms, you can follow her, and you can go buy her books. Who is this person that I'm talking about? She's founder of TNC Wealth Partners, a consultancy specializing in employee financial wellness company. She's a published author of Ringfence, which is a book that you're seeing in front of us right now. Chicklet that explores financial, legal, and psychological themes through the eyes of Africa's elite. And cast member of SABC1's reality show, The Queens of Mzansi, a first of its kind format that follows self-made women that are divorced, widowed, and never been married. She's also the voice behind 959 Kaya Biz on Kaya FM, the financial wellness feature on Talk Radio 702 as well. Her work has been featured on international media outlets, including CNBC Africa. Shout out to CNBC Africa. We've worked together. We've done some TV shows together. She's also done a lot of work with Channels TV in Nigeria, K24 TV in Kenya, and her presentations delivered on stages from Kenya, Nigeria, Cyprus, all over the world. She has over 12 years of experience in the personal finance industry, with 7 years spent as a private banker at Investec Specialist Bank. She holds an honors in financial planning and an MBA completed with a dissertation titled Factors Contributing to Over-Indebtedness of Black South African Females. She has a lot of business accolades, guys. I can go on the whole day. Her resume is too long. Her resumes also include like United Nations MyPad Top 100 Most Influential Persons of African Descent, Entrepreneur Magazine, Top 50 Black African Women Entrepreneurs to Watch, and Brand SA Ambassador. Oh, guys, she's a mother of two, so I can go on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mrs. Samke.
I'm so good. It's so
we're
good.
Excited. We're excited to have you.
Listen, every time you and I get behind the mic together, it's magic.
I also have to mention that you are based between Atlanta and Johannesburg.
That's right.
You're in between two countries. And I think I've lived the past 5 years, this is before COVID-19 hit, between the US and South Africa.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, ever since then, I haven't traveled anywhere. The only place I've been at, which was earlier this year in 2022, was in Zimbabwe. But for some reason, like I miss traveling. But while I miss traveling, I've also fallen even more in love with South Africa. So as a globetrotter, COVID-19 hits, here you are, here's a new book. The last time we connected was at Massive Metro. How have you been?
I have been everything. I've been happy. I've been sad. I've won. I've taken L's. I've made money. I've lost money. I've gone through it all. So I'm not going to lie and say I've been good, because sometimes I've been bad, but I'm still standing.
And it's good to see you again.
Such a pleasure.
What I want you to understand, this will be different from the interviews that we'd have at Massive. There are no radio ads here. We don't have to go to music. So whatever you want to express to the audience, take your time. So don't be in a hurry.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think before we get into business, your authoring of books and the entrepreneurship side of things, let's start with your story, just to give a bit of a background to the audience as to who you are. Who are you and where you're from? Just tell us a bit of your background.
Samke Mhlongo is a 37-year-old woman, originally from KwaZulu-Natal, born in Ngutu, raised in Matadeni, as well as in Ngwelezane, settled in Pietermaritzburg, moved around quite a bit because I was raised by my grandmother, who was a chief matron, a bedlel. So wherever she was posted, we'd go there. Moved to Johannesburg when I was 12, stayed here till I was 15, then moved down to Cape Town. And the reason I moved down to Cape Town is because at the age of 14, I moved in with my mother for the first time in my life. And that relationship wasn't good because I was used to uktotoswa, being raised by my grandmother. And here's my mom, thank you, trying to instill within me, ukuthi, intombazane yenza nje, iyacleana, iyawasha. And I was like,
Sorry about that. Yeah,
no
continue.
problem. I'm not used to that. Nkule no gogo, I don't have to do anything. So that was a very difficult period in my life. Moved to Cape Town to live with my aunt and uncle. Finished matric in Cape Town. Went to the University of Cape Town. Fell pregnant in uni. Had a child in uni.
How old were you?
I was 20. So I always say it was not a teenage pregnancy because I gave birth at 20.
So you gave birth at 20, varsity time. What happened?
Yes.
Did you think you'd make it out, or was it those type of thoughts where, my life is ending, I'm pregnant at this age? And
No, I was still going to campus with my big tummy. I was still writing exams with my tummy. Gave birth, went right back to school with breast pads because, the milk is coming, mtana. And I knew I was going to finish. And when I look back and reflect on my resolve at the time, I was actually doing that to prove to my mom that one can fall pregnant in university and finish, because my mom fell pregnant with me in medical school. And for a long time, she said, it's because of you that I couldn't finish my medical studies. And whether or not that was said with malice, it hit me in a way where I felt like, oh, okay, because I've cost you your dreams and your career. And so I wanted to prove this thing so I can say to her, Buka, I did it, so you can never again say that to me. And got married to the person I had the child with. We moved to Joburg, went on to have another child. Things didn't work out, sadly. Got divorced. Very interesting divorce. Very dramatic. So dramatic, I wrote a whole 395 pages inspired by my journey through divorce and what I saw other people go through and what I was enlightened to with regards to life after divorce. And I started working in financial services. Again, that was rooted in my childhood. Growing up, I'd see my gran go to a bank, NPS, ask for extensions and payment holidays on a bond because my grandfather was hit by a stroke. So she went from a dual income household to a single income household. And I remember promising Gutime Nkula, I will, if ever I were to be a banker, I'd be kinder than these tellers are to us. And I keep saying this and reflecting on this because as I've done self-work, I realize so many of our adult decisions are based on appeasing the inner child. And that's part of my journey in saying I won't allow the inner child to bully me in those instances where my decisions aren't rational, but driven by those needs. Long story short, worked for 7 years at Investec.
You don't have to cut it short. So let's share. No, let's take our time, Sis Samke.
Okay, so moved to Joburg, went to different interviews, and everywhere I'd go for the interview, they'd say, you're such an Investec candidate. You know, you're such an Investec candidate. So I interviewed for an Investec role. First round, didn't get it. Second time, got it. Started working in UK banking, UK treasury. So I'd be working UK hours, servicing UK clients, sticking to or governed by UK regulations, but out of the South African office. And 6 months into that, I then moved into the South African banking side, was an assistant banker, and 2.5 years later, became a primary banker. Did that for about 3.5 years, I hope my math adds up, before going on my own. And by the time I went on my own, I was matching my salary through public speaking on personal finance matters. It was during my divorce that I realized there's so much I didn't know around how finance works. Because finance, when you're working with money as a banker, versus finance when you are the subject, being influenced by emotions and fears and desires, two very different animals. And so when I started doing social media posts, media started asking me to come and comment on these very issues on TV, on radio, and thus the journey began. Companies saw me on these different platforms, booked me to come speak, and that's how my consultancy was born. The difference is that I don't look at finance from a traditional point of view. I look at it from the end user point of view, having walked the journey where you can tell me, Guti Samke, you know, we need to cut your funeral cover for these extended family members. But I know, Uguti, the backlash of going back home and saying, guys, so that I can protect myself, I'll leave you exposed, it's something that's not going to happen. And so how do we then, as financial services professionals, become more practical around the solutions we are providing and advancing to the end user? I've been doing this, been an entrepreneur for 5 years, taken a lot of knocks. The journey has been absolutely fulfilling. I wouldn't change it for the world. Radio, TV, magazines, book, you know, different platforms that I did not imagine myself ever being on. I found myself on international stages, as you mentioned. And what entrepreneurship does is that it leaves you ready to be pulled by your purpose. Because there's many times where I've resisted being in media. You know, contrary to popular belief, I actually don't want to be that girl. But when your emails are quiet, the phone is quiet, and the only people knocking at your door are the media people, then you need to yield to the universe and say, okay, clearly I'm being called. You surrender, you give it your all, and you watch the magic happen. So it's been a spiritual journey as well. It's been very painful at times, but full of elation at others. And I wouldn't change anything. I'm very happy with where I am. I've still got a long way to go, but I've done a lot of inner work. I've grown roots that I doubt I would have had I stayed in the safety of employment, which is not to say everyone should take this route. It's not for everyone. But I sincerely believe I'm where I'm meant to be.
And that's an incredible story. Having gone through, maybe let's start with divorce, a lot of people don't have a comeback from that. What are some of the messages you'd like to hear or you'd like to share to younger women out there who are going towards their marriage journey, knowing what you know now?
You know, Toni Morrison said that if there's a book you wish had been written and hasn't been written, you write that book. And that's exactly what Ringfence was for me. People see the engagement ring on the cover and think, oh, this is some Mills and Boon romantic novel. But Ringfence is actually an investment banking term where a company will ring-fence its most valuable assets and revenue streams when going through a risky transaction. So it protects that which is most valuable to it. And ring-fence is a call to action for women to see themselves as valuable assets. Because women too often see themselves in reference to other people. I'm someone's mother. I'm someone's daughter, I'm someone's sister, I'm someone's wife. No, ma'am, you're someone, full stop. And so once you start seeing yourself as valuable in and of yourself, you'll then build the confidence and have the impetus to say, hang on a minute, I need to put in the necessary structures to protect myself from a legal point of view, from a financial point of view, and from a psychological point of view. Because a UBS study into the behavior of some of Britain's wealthiest women found that even those women that were self-made did not have the confidence to question their wealth managers. They simply made the money and handed it over. We do not have the confidence to question, to challenge, which is steeped in childhoods and homes where you get given an instruction and when you ask why, you get told because I said so. Steeped in relationship and power dynamics where, you are rewarded for playing small, for conforming. And life asks of us to say, no, I will protect myself. I will put myself first. And then I will enter into the riskiest transactions that a woman can take in her life, which financially is death and divorce, because they have the biggest negative financial impact on a woman's life.
Say that again. Death and divorce have got the biggest
negative financial impact on a woman's life. And you put in the necessary structures to protect yourself from that so that no matter what happens, you're not left naked. A lot of people say, oh, Samke, are you promoting divorce by saying we should plan for it? I say, but if you take out medical aid, you're not planning for cancer. If you take out car insurance, you're not planning on getting into an accident. So why then is it that when you take out insurance for life's eventualities, you think I'm promoting that eventuality? No, I'm not. And so some of the lessons, key lessons I would say is number one, don't get married until you know who it is that you are. Because you can't find a suitor if you are not the woman you're meant to be. Because then what is that suitor suiting? And we find in a lot of marriages, the break starts to happen when a woman starts to get into her own, starts to assert herself, starts to grow in her career, and then you start finding sentiment like, you now think you're the man of the house. No, I don't think I'm the man of the house. I'm simply growing into the woman that my career, my talent, my skills are allowing me to grow into. If that is threatening you, then it means that when we got married, you projected out and said, "Lo, ngeke beyond this point, I'm comfortable." And when I start breaching that point, you become uncomfortable, and then it starts causing havoc and chaos and disrupting the household structure. And that is why I was quoting to you earlier, this research study was actually by the National Australian University that found that women that earn more than their partners have a 35% higher chance of facing domestic violence than women that earn equal to or less than. So we've been preaching make your own money, but we found that when you make your own money in the household structure, especially in those societies where the identity of a man is defined by his role as the provider in the home. Once you remove him from that role, he's left confused as to, so what am I here? And then in response and in defense of his identity, he lashes out using the one thing he has left, his physical prowess, being physically violent.
The Bible doesn't say woman love your man. The Bible says men love your woman. And then the other way around, it says women respect your man. Because us as men, may so rest in peace, the late great Dr. Miles Monroe. There's a beautiful lecture, guys. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Before he passed on, he poured out his amazing wisdom to the world. He's got a lot of lectures. He's even been here at South Africa a couple of times. So go check out that lecture where he talks about how we as men interpret respect as love. And you guys interpret attention as love. Attention would be me worrying about what you ate today, worrying about are you covered, are you warm, the car you're driving, you look beautiful. You know what I mean? Like providing for you as well, making sure you're able to attain all of those things. So also play your role in the household to look after the kids. So what I wanted to hear from you is, with that being said, were you or have you always been consciously aware of these type of things, or they happened after your marriage?
After. That's a no-brainer. After. And what I realize now is that when I entered my marriage, I had recently lost my father.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And thank you.
When was that?
That was my father passed in 2003. I met my ex-husband in 2005.
Okay, around that time. Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and then 2007 we were married. Okay. And so I was looking for someone who's going to play that father figure. Don't let me worry about anything. I was a big daddy's girl, big princess. I just want to be spoiled. I don't want to have to worry about anything. And that's what he did until I then started, working at a bank, asserting myself, saying, hey, I want to see bond statements. Hey, I want to be involved in the decision. And it's like, hang on a minute, when did things change? So there's never, with the benefit of hindsight, I know now that there's never any one saint or one sinner. And even with the book, it's written such that you can actually argue that the men were wrong, but you could equally argue that the women were wrong. And when we start having a higher sense of self-awareness, we can understand how to effectively use the power that comes with financial emancipation so that we don't land ourselves in situations where we are emasculating our partners. We're seeing an increase in divorce rates. Interesting fact, in South Africa, for the year 2020, the biggest number of divorces, the highest number of divorces, was instituted by Black females. So what this financial emancipation and wealth creation is doing to the Black community is that, yes, it's giving us the option to not stay in crappy marriages, but it also is creating a situation where it's breaking down the household structure and forcing us to have very difficult conversations, sometimes faster than and sooner than the parties to those conversations are ready to have. And so when we promote this idea of financial independence and being able to stand on your own, ask any successful woman who's been on her own for at least 5 years. It's lonely at the top. And it's lonely when you don't have someone at home to celebrate your successes, to share in your successes. And so along with the success and along with the independence, you say, yes, you can stand on your own. Should you need to. We're not promoting stand on your own because, being in a marriage or relationship is old school. No, we are social beings. We want to be loved upon. We want to give love. So how do we now navigate this new environment we find ourselves in, where very many men, Black African men, can find themselves in a relationship and in a situation where the woman is the breadwinner? Now that the man is not the provider, what is he?
When did your divorce happen?
2016.
2016, coming this way, the message is very loud all over the world about feminism. What is it that you've learned around feminism that you know now that you didn't know then? And if you knew then, what are some of the things that you could have done differently over the past, 2016 to now has been, 6 years?
Yeah.
Over the past 6 years.
What, you see, at the core of feminism, right? Mom Judy Dlamini's book on...
Siyabonga mama, siyabonga mama. Siyakuthanda futhi, siyabonga ngomsebenzi omuhle.
Mom Judy Dlamini...
Mama, even with your husband as well, I always share this story. Every time when they have to speak about her, I've got a soft spot because Ubab Sizwe, for me, I always say at the time he was the head of Telkom.
Right.
And Telkom paid for my studies. So even when I have to criticize them at some point, I always have just that soft spot for them. But I think what I love the most about them is their investment in education through future schools. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, sorry for disturbing you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, and they're a great example of a power couple where they're both very financially strong.
They're my role models.
And they've made it work, and they have such a soft and gentle marriage, on from what I can see. And so what I was going to say is that one of her books, which doesn't necessarily deal with feminism, but rather looks at the different intricacies and nuances of being a black female versus a white female in corporate, is titled Equal But Different. And that's what the core of feminism is. Feminism says that we are equal as male and female, i.e. we should have an equal opportunity to exercise our skills and talents and desires. But we're not the same. So when someone says, you know, you want to wear the pants in the relationship, I don't know about you, but I love my dresses and my skirts. I'm not trying to wear the pants, but I'm trying to have an equal opportunity to chase my career dreams as opposed to being relegated to the kitchen simply because of my gender.
But isn't it that's what women are supposed to do here on this earth? Your purpose is not necessarily the kitchen, but for you to be a holder and a creator and a runner or a CEO, for lack of a better word, of that family unit, keeping it together.
According to who?
According to African cultures and how our ancestors have always done it.
Well, then you take me to some of the Asian countries where women are head of the household and they can even marry multiple men. And then what happens to that ideology of this is what's supposed to happen on this earth? And I use that example because we are now global citizens. We are well-traveled. We are, even if we don't travel, we can travel through our TV screens or even our phones via YouTube. So this idea of this one way of doing things, right, is not something we can hang our hats on. In fact, I often say, just because there's a way that works doesn't mean it's the only way that works. And so going back to the idea of finding your suitor, it is only once you know yourself and what it is that you want and the role that you want to play in the household that you can then go out and find the partner that suits that which you require from a partner. I know for myself, do not put me in the kitchen. Right now in my relationship, my man does all the cooking when I'm home, the cleaning. He's an American man. He grew from Queens. That's just how he grew up. I mean, I'm like, I had an auntie, so if you can't afford auntie, it's you.
What about you? Do you help him?
I do other things.
So he does most of the house chores. Ah, come on, Samke. Guys will be saying, yeah, he's a simp.
They can say he's a simp all they want, honey. Trust me, he knows he's the man when we go into that bedroom. Okay?
I'm sure a lot of men who are watching right now, they're saying that's not an African man.
He's very black. He's very African. And if you think about it, this is Zulu, for instance. It was the men that used to go hunting, the men that prepare the meat. You know, there are certain parts of Inyama that women aren't even allowed to touch. So we love in modern day to pick and choose which elements of the African culture we'll apply and ignore, which is wrong. So we either apply everything or we apply nothing and rather agree and co-curate what it is that will be our culture. And remember, culture doesn't have to be universal. I always say, Mina, I believe that each marriage should have its own culture. So don't base it on your parents' marriage. Don't base it on your neighbor's marriage because you actually don't even know 100% of the truth of what's happening in there. So agree with your partner, Guti, you know what? This is the culture in our relationship. So for instance, I know with my relationship, my partner, he'll do the housework, he'll do whatever, but he says, Samke, you need to be self-sufficient. I'm not the type of man who's going to be sending you 10K, 50K, so go out there and work. But I love that because I want to be someone that works. So whenever I'm doing an Instagram post, I'm doing a radio interview, there's a YouTube video, he is sending and sharing those links to anyone that cares because he so loves me as a career woman. And that's why I say find your suitor. He suits me because I know, Uguti, I'm a career woman. My dad, said to me, Samke, what do you want to be when you grow up? You must be independent when you grow up. He was an entrepreneur. We've said it's wrong to cater to your man, to ukotame when you're serving him food. If that is your love language and his love language, there's nothing, who are we to say it's right or wrong? And feminism, if we are saying it is about freedom, to have the equal opportunity to express yourself the way in which you want, then why do we chastise those women that choose to express themselves in the kitchen and in the home? If feminism truly is about the freedom to define your identity, then we need to respect those women that choose that their identity is to be nurturers and homemakers.
Nurturers and homemakers. The book is called Ringfence by Samke S. Mhlongo. It's got a foreword from Josina Z. Michelle. They say the fall is only as great as the ability to rise, and the Belters know plenty about going both ways. Growing up in the best schools and moving in the continent's aristocratic circles, the road to carving out their ideal life is clear. But that path is rarely straight. And for the 4 university friends, the sharp turn into teenage pregnancy, infidelity, and the erosion of love's grand illusion delivers blows that would derail most. Chick and haughty, entitled and oblivious, Lolo, Nala, Runako. I'm sure these are some of the people that you've spent a lot of years with. And Khaya, you guys, it's already filed, Petama file, AKA the Belters is what they were called. They grow to realize that while their flair is hard work, it doesn't work hard enough. Nala learns the hard way, and I'm interested in knowing these characters, are they real names, and I want you to go back and dwell into that story before we continue. But Lolo discovers that everyone betrays everyone sometimes in life. Runako realizes that the heavier the carrots, the harder it is to run. And Khaya finds herself in a world where saints, monsters, and bystanders are the same people. With sharp wit and the wisdom of hindsight, hindsight or hindsight?
Hindsight.
So, guys, Ringfence reflects, Ringfence, by the way, name of the book, reflects on 4 lives that touched the foot of heaven, fall to the depths of hell, and grow to become women whose hard-earned insights cut right to the heart of Africa's elite. Explain this in simple terms. What is this book all about, Ringfence?
In simple terms, we dream of having parents with money. We dream of being parents with money because we think that will shield our children from the realities of life. We all, no matter our economic background, no matter Sbu from Tembisa High and Samke from Saint Ntontoni.
Yeah.
If a man breaks my heart or a woman breaks your heart, we'll cry the same tears. If something makes you happy and something makes me happy, we'll laugh from the depths of our belly. So life happens. And a lot of Africans, especially those from countries that have recently attained wealth, we're first generation wealthy, like South Africa, we think money is the solution. We think put your child in a private school, get them today to a boy from a good family, with pedigree, and they'll live happily ever after. It does not work that way. And so this book says, even at the point where you have money, life happens. So have you taken the necessary steps to protect yourself? Aba Lolo, Abana, Josina, for instance. Josina's father is the late, great Samora Machel, first president of independent Mozambique. Then her stepfather was the late, great Nelson Mandela, first president of democratic South Africa. Went into a relationship where her partner physically assaulted her, blinding her in one eye. She was carrying her eyeball with her hand, walking to the hospital.
Oh, shame.
That case disappeared because of political connections. She still has not been served justice. So even with 2 presidents for fathers, as a woman, it doesn't guarantee you'll be shielded from the harsh realities of life. And in Mozambique, a lot of the women, ordinary Mozambican citizens, were like, but you're Josina Machel. Why should we care? You've got all the money in the world, all the power in the world. Not true. And that was her wake-up call to say, we clearly do not know the power dynamics at play between the genders, whether or not you've got money or are from a powerful family. As a woman, your first line of defense is not your surname, is not your daddy, is not your powerful man, it's you.
as a woman, your first line of defense is not the people that you think would or can or are protecting you. It's actually you.
It's you. So
The decisions that you make, right?
The decisions you make, the situations you find yourself in. That's why one of the most contentious passages in that book is an exchange between Ukaya and Junior. Ukaya was raised by a single mom who told her, ukuthi mntanam, ngiwunese London. Ngizokufaka private school, but after that you're on your own. She gets all A's, gets a bursary to UCT, meets up with this guy, Junior, Prime Minister's son, and he doesn't even care about that life. He just wants to be an artist. His father cuts him off because he's like, Dad, I don't want to go into politics. And his father's like, uzodlala ma-crayon. Africans and being in the creative industry, you and I can talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
Gets cut off, and Kaya's like, no, instead of you going to Berlin to go waitress while you try be an artist, move in with me, it's fine. After a year or two, when she realizes, hey, lama painting our hampi, and she's trying to buy a house, and the banker says, I can't rely on his earnings, they're too erratic. I'm sure you know that as well.
I'm an artist. I can relate. Musicians, you guys know, DJs, you can relate. You can get an ad hoc, and actresses and actors. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Sometimes feast, sometimes famine.
Sometimes the whole year there's no work. It's
but I'm going to 2 million cash.
Yeah.
And then you go to the bank and they're like, no, but it's inconsistent earnings. And Ukaya now turns, because she's been bottling up a lot of these feelings, turns on a Junior and says, useless. I can't even get a house because I'm getting maliguwe. And he's like, all I want is that you respect me as the man of this house. Uti, man of this house, you can't even pay for this house. It's my name on the title deed. You can't even do anything and you can't even buy a house and you want to call yourself a man. She pushes him and she says, you know what? The reason you can't even do these things, the reason you can't even provide, and the reason your art is not selling is not because, it would sell if you were in Berlin or it would sell if you were in New York. The reason it's not selling in South Africa is because you paint shit. So she attacks him with the very thing he's given everything up for. And a lot of men, when I do this passage in different audiences, say, Samke, you're the first woman to acknowledge the power of women's words. Tina, when we react with our physical prowess, physically, and it leaves a mark, you can go around showing everyone, Nina men kuluma, we can't go around telling people, bugung limazela. And so, it's very important to realize the damage that we women also do and make with our words. And realize the environment South African men especially find themselves in, where they're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to say it's sore. They're not allowed to say it hurts.
But the sticks and stones may break bones, but words cause or may cause permanent damage.
Exactly. So as much as this book says, protect yourself, it's also a mirror to say, check yourself.
I always say to a lot of people in 2022, you don't have to work as hard as our predecessors did, especially for the people that are pursuing international careers. You can literally build yourself here at home and you can parachute yourself to anywhere else in the world. And I'll make a practical example for anybody that might not understand me with the statement that I'm making. A simple example is, go check out the biggest podcast in the country by McG. You write off the career, he's been fired from all the biggest radio stations, he starts a podcast, doesn't matter whether you like it or you don't like it, but it becomes the biggest podcast in the country. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, it reignites his other talents that people don't know about. He's actually a DJ, he's a very good house DJ. But he's evolving with the times, dropping a new Amapiano album. He's now getting gigs. He's now going all over the world. He's getting invited. You also, when I met you at Massive Metro, it was the early days of a lot of us. As I was making an example earlier, that the likes of Theo were still delivering themselves, their own shoes, You know, we're all sort of starting out. We're all being called crazy, starting up on MOFAYA, you know? You know what I mean? And all of us are now growing. It's a lot of us that are growing that started then. I can imagine all the challenges we're all experiencing, but all of us are growing somehow, good or bad, you know, whichever way you want to look at it, but we're all growing whether we like it or not. We're literally all building multi-billion rand companies, multi-million rand companies, multi-million dollar companies, multi-billion dollar companies.
That's right.
And we are sort of starting to see it, a lot of us in just this short space. So what I want to know is the inspiration from you. When I was speaking to you those early days, you were speaking this narrative. Let's do our own thing. And you've always been passionate about women. Let's start our own things, our own companies, black people, blah, 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 blah. The international dream or vision or, and how have you done it that, you know, that you landed up having to do business in both continents, Africa and the US?
Africa, for me, the rest of Africa, getting those opportunities was literally from me putting myself out there on different platforms, different conferences. And South Africa is actually, and South Africans are very attractive to the rest of Africa. And, you know, if you've traveled to anywhere on the continent outside of SA, you'll know how hospitable people are to us. And we really need to start advancing the same. Of course, I'm not negating, minimizing or ignoring the fact that there are very real issues as well that come with undocumented, right? Immigrants and those foreign nationals that actually engage in criminal activities. I'm not taking away. I always say that when something amazing happens, when you're seeing a Bentley or a Rollie or, you know, first class holidays on Instagram or social media or TikTok, poor people go, wow. Rich people say, how? How did you do that? And if it doesn't make sense, there's something that person is not telling you. And it's probably something they don't want you to know.
What is it that I should know about money when I'm 18 right now? Not only just to our sisters, even namachit, intwane ngane zimava, zisemavava manje, basema NMMU, basema VET, basema UJ, basema Tekis, basema University of the North, Teflo. They're all over the country. They're in the Free State. They are watching right now. Like, what is it that I should know about money at my age that you think if you can share now in 1 or 3 minutes can save me another year?
I would say understand how banks and debt works. Because a lot of us want to say, mina ngeke ngithathe isikoloto, mina ngizophila cash, which actually holds us back. Debt is a powerful tool if you know how to use it. So when you're starting out in life, take advantage of the opportunities you're given.
Take advantage of the opportunities you've been given. And by the way, the reason why I'm emphasizing on this, I want my team to listen to this part because this is what I always teach them. You listening, bro? Listen to what she's about to say.
Take advantage of the opportunities you are given. Number 1, to earn an income from the university age. But number 2, to start creating your credit profile. The sooner you create a credit profile and have a good credit score, the easier and sooner you'll be able to start leveraging good debt, i.e.
Can you guys hear? Please continue.
The sooner you start, the sooner you'll be able to leverage good debt, i.e. debt that allows you to finance property so that you can enter the property game. I know not of someone that's bought apartments cash. Or if you do, you've already made your money somewhere else. So if you're looking at getting into the property market, if you're looking at getting funding to start up your company, banks will never give you money to start up your company. They'll give you a loan, but they won't give you money to start up your company. So leverage the banking system. You take out that store card, take out that phone contract, proving you can pay it on time. If you can't pay a phone contract or a store account on time, why on earth would a bank believe you can pay off a property on time? So this narrative of banks just want to leave us indebted, banks would sooner give us a personal loan than money for a house. That's because a personal loan will be 10,000, but money for a house is 500,000. I'd rather lose 10K than lose 500K. So prove to me, it's like going to the gym. 1 kg, you can lift it, 2 kg, 10, 60, you're benching. So the aim and the point of taking out those small loans and that small debt is to prove you can handle it. We have 6 credit bureaus in South Africa. And by law, each credit bureau is legislated to give you 1 free credit report per year. Meaning, if there's 6, you can have a free credit report every 2 months. So check that your credit score is growing. Make sure you take out that credit card, that phone contract, for the purposes of showing you are responsible. You're a responsible payer. Then at the point where your credit score is high, you're then able to take out that loan, leverage that money to invest and to grow your balance sheet. And make sure that you're keeping an eye on your credit profile, you're monitoring, you're managing, and you are actually using someone else's money. Because you don't have the money to put down 500K cash for an apartment, but the bank does. And another free tip, don't get a pay slip when you start working and then go get a car. Wait 6 months so that your score is growing, because the higher your score grows, the lower your interest rate, giving you the same effect as putting in a deposit. So you can behave like a trust fund baby who's getting a deposit from their father simply by buying or taking out debt only at the point where your credit score is highest, giving you the lowest possible interest rate, giving you the same impact as a deposit, and there you are on your journey to wealth creation.
We grew up being brainwashed to believe money is the root of all evil. Don't take debt. It's not good to have credit. What's the difference between good and bad credit? Let's share.
The love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself, right? The Bible is an abundant Bible. In fact, the Bible says you'll be lenders of nations, not borrowers, yeah? And we want to get there. And you can use debt to get yourself to the position where you are now the borrower,
They call
the
it
lender.
OPM, other people's money. You can
That's
use
right.
other people's money to get yourself to the top.
That's right. That's right. And so what the difference between good and bad debt is that bad debt is debt that you take out to consume. You've spent it, you've gone on holiday, you've thrown a party, there's nothing to show for it. Good debt, you've taken the money, you've bought a car or a house. A lot of people will say, but a car is a depreciating asset, etc. If you are using that car to get to work where you can work longer hours, and we know there are a lot of jobs that require a car, my apologies. A lot of jobs require a car. So if you're using that car to work longer hours, get yourself that promotion. In 3 years' time, you're earning 50% more than the person that doesn't have a job, is rushing out the office at 4 p.m. because you're bambi pass. Guess who's winning?
And maybe I'm even using that car as an Uber. It's bringing me money every month.
That's correct. You're carpooling, you're using it as an Uber. There's so many opportunities and ways in which you can switch your assets. It's just like education, because you take that money, you put it into school fees, and people say, but you've got nothing to show for it. The proof is what you do with that education. So similarly with cars, the car itself is not the asset. It's what you do with the car that's the asset. So if you do with the car something that will bring you more money than you would have had without that car, and bring you more money than you're spending on that car, you're sitting in a net positive. You're making more money having the car than without the car. You're winning.
How do I fix my credit profile if I'm blacklisted by the government, but I'm still working, I'm earning 5,000 rands every month? How do I fix that problem?
So if you're blacklisted, that judgment stays on your profile for a maximum of 5 years. After 5 years, that judgment will be lifted off your profile. Alternatively, you can actually settle the amount outstanding for which that judgment was listed, and then you write to a credit bureau with a letter of settlement from that credit provider that listed you saying, Nai Edgars or Foshini or Pick and Pay or my landlord, whoever, saying I've now settled this debt. Here's a letter confirming, so remove this judgment from my ITC profile is another way of doing so. So you can wait it out, or once you're in a better position financially, you can settle the debt, get a letter of settlement, and go to the bureaus yourself for them to update your record. With that being said, Debt consolidation is good and it works only in the event that you pay more than the minimum due and that the total you repay on the consolidated loan is equal to or less than the total you would have repaid had you kept your existing loans. Debt consolidation advertisement is misleading in that it says save money every month. You're not saving anything. You pay less. Correct? You don't even pay less. You pay lower. You pay a lower amount per month over a longer period, meaning you're paying more in total. So the way to win the debt consolidation game is to say, yeah, take that debt consolidation loan, but make sure you set your installment such that you're not paying a cent more in total repayments on that debt consolidation loan had you repaid on your existing loans.
Say that again.
Make sure you set your debt consolidation loan repayments. Don't repay what they've told you must repay because it's over a longer period and therefore you're paying more in interest. But rather, tell them, this is the total I would have repaid had I kept my existing loans. Set my installment higher so that the total I will repay on this debt consolidation loan is equal to or less than what I would have paid on these existing loans. Now, if you are taking out a debt consolidation loan, it's unlikely that you can afford that higher repayment. So what you do is, this is where lump sums come in. If you're getting a bonus, if you're getting proceeds from selling something, a side hustle, pump it into that debt consolidation loan. Because now you've bought yourself flexibility and you've bought yourself the ability to repay a lower amount in those tough times without affecting your credit profile. But the minute extra money comes in, pump it into that debt consolidation loan so that you're not destroying wealth and value by repaying more because you've got a longer period. You're putting yourself in the same position you would have been had you not needed to take out the debt consolidation loan.
I've got a job that pays me 10,000 rands every month, but I don't have much in the bank. How do I raise money? How do I raise 250,000 rands to go start my business?
It's near impossible to raise money to start a business. Facts. There's plenty money to grow a proven business concept. So you will need to bootstrap.
What is to bootstrap?
Use your own money.
Oh, okay.
And like you've said, it's okay, I don't have money to save. Ask for family and friends. If your own family and friends don't believe in you, which sometimes happens, okay, no problem, let's not go there. Convince other people in your network. Set up a GoFundMe page, crowdfund. If no one in your circle, your family circle, your social circle, crowdfunding platforms believes in your idea, what makes you think the banks will? So banks give money to those that don't need it. You get a business that's been turning over millions, they're offered hundreds of thousands in working cap or overdraft facilities. But to start a business, someone else won't want to take out their money to start something they're not sure will work. So by the time you raise money for your business, you need to make sure you've proven it works. That's the difference. And the money to prove that this thing works is what separates the dreamers from the doers.
Oh, so that's how other people would say, I built my business with nothing.
Correct.
I had no money in my bank account. I used other people's money
Yes.
to build my business.
Because they're convinced if you can't sell to your network, what makes you think you can sell to strangers? Because sales is a fundamental entrepreneurial skill to convince people to buy into your product. If you can't make people see the need for what you're offering, is there indeed a need for what you're offering?
I've heard other entrepreneurs who say, I built my business even with a blacklisted profile.
Yeah.
How do you raise money when you are blacklisted? A lot of people, I'm working with a company called Ekasi Property Development now. We're doing a lot of property developments. And I think what attracted me to the founders of that company is they started their company from nothing. They didn't have money. Forget that they didn't have money. They were blacklisted.
Yeah.
And any South African who's blacklisted, I'm from there, by the way, also.
Yeah.
mentally we think my life is over. I can't buy anything. I can't buy a house. I can't buy a car. The government has blacklisted me. How do I even raise money to build a business with a blacklisted profile?
So remember that blacklisting and credit profiles refers to the ability or inability of a registered financial institution to lend you money. You can get people investing in your business if you're blacklisted because they're not going to ask for your credit profile. They're not required to. You can raise money from development funding institutions. You can raise money from crowdfunding platforms. You can get grants. So blacklisting speaks to your ability to repay a loan. It doesn't speak to your ability to raise investments. Because with a loan, what is returned is the capital. With an investment, what is returned is the equity.
Say that again. With the loan, what is returned is the
capital. With a loan, you give back to the bank money. With investments, you give back to the investor equity.
Ah, that is so beautiful. I hope you guys get it. You must keep on rewinding this episode. You have to keep on watching it. By the way, a lot of people are going to ask, like, what is her YouTube platform? And I think after this episode, you're going to have so much pressure to open up that platform. That's why I love sisters like Abo Nicolette.
Yeah.
I love people that open up platforms to teach, share. And that's how you've always been. But I just don't understand why haven't you. Yes, I know you've got your social media, but just that platform for us to learn from. Because I've learned so much from you over the past few years from a distance.
Self-sabotage. I had to do the inner work. I had to go deep. I had to believe that what I'm saying is valuable. Not someone else tell me it is, but me believe. So that when I'm sitting by myself, curating that content, I have the passion and the motivation to do it because I intrinsically believe it's valuable. And that work, I can honestly say, has only really happened in the past 12 months.
Sure. That is so incredible. And I'm sure that's what this book is all about. Ringfence.
Uh-huh.
Ringfence. Tell me about ring fencing in financial terms or in financial language.
Ringfence, financial language. When a company protects its most valuable assets or income streams when going through a risky transaction. And this is a call to action for women primarily. Men will enjoy this book. You know, I've given you an example of Kai and Junior.
Because sure.
And to be honest, in today's world, you know, I don't need to tell you about gender pay gap, gender wage gap, etc. You know, it's skewed. The balance is skewed to men. So I went to where the fire is. I've been chastised on various radio interviews where people say, yeah, but men also suffer, but men also need to protect themselves. And I'm like, yeah, that is akin to you telling a Black Lives Matter protester that all lives matter. We know all lives matter. I'm not ignoring the fact that men need to protect themselves as well, but I'm saying this is the house that's on fire. And that's where I'm going to pour water. And this book is really a coming of age manual. It's a book I wish I'd read at 21. It would have saved me a lot of trouble and would have helped me start a lot of work that I needed to do sooner.
Sorry, let me just come in there. What is it that this book could have saved you from if you had read it at age 21? Ngiyabonga, thank you.
Thank you. I'll have another one. It would have saved me from making choices and decisions where I put others first whilst leaving myself naked. It would have saved me from people pleasing. It would have saved me from blindly trusting people where I shouldn't have trusted them, where the engagement was transactional. They had their best interest at heart, and I thought they had my best interest at heart. It would have saved me from being naive. It's an eye opener, and it would have colored the world a little bit clearer for me than the rose hue I had, where I thought if you're nice to people, they'll be nice to you. That's not how life works. You know, there's a quote that says, if you want peace, prepare for war. There's a reason why the US doesn't speak anyhow about North Korea. because they know they'll nuke them in 5 minutes. So if you want peace and everyone to get along, make sure they know that if they fuck with you, they'll get hurt. And that's how everyone will say, Ninjan sis, because they know, good, yabola, gata, you know, nyatalupegil. Don't just come at her anyhow.
Are you now settled in SA or US? And I know you told me that it's Atlanta and Joburg, but why are you more?
I'm definitely more in South Africa, and that's simply because with a US visa, visitor's visa, you're not allowed to be in the US for more than 6 months in a year. So I'm slightly skewed towards SA, but I definitely do spend a lot of time in the US. And I'm planning on spending a lot of time in the US.
Are you gonna get it? Are you gonna get married to your hubby or your current partner just so you can get a US visa?
90-day
citizenship,
fiance.
they call
90-day fiance. I mean, that is a serious consideration, you know, and it's a conversation we've had to say we don't have the option of being life partners because of the regulations, you know? It'll make it very difficult for us to say, oh, we don't believe in marriage, we're just going to live together happily ever after. No. The law will chuck Samke out every 6 months. So we've had that conversation, and he's divorced as well, so he knows what marriage is about. And you guys will just have to stay tuned to see if we get married or not. Right now, we're both just really enjoying this relationship without putting any pressure. I still have a lot going on in South Africa, so I wouldn't want to be stuck in the US, you know, full time anytime soon anyway. So we're just really enjoying where we are.
There's more things that I'd like to get, that I'd like for us to get into. We're an educational platform, and I'm glad that finally you paid the visit. This is like, 2 years later? The podcast's 2 years old, but it's still new. It's still early. It's still a baby. But I'm looking forward to us getting into different topics that are educational, like the past 20, 30 minutes, that can be of help or of value to our audiences, because we're an educational platform. And I love the fact that you're passionate about young women, you're passionate about business, about financial literacy. And I hope that this episode encourages you as well to start your own. It doesn't even have to be a podcast. That's a YouTube channel. We want to learn, you know?
I'll think about it.
I'll think about it.
I'll think about it.
Do you know if you started it then? You remember those days when we were doing interviews massively, like pre-COVID? Imagine how big it would be by now.
I can imagine. What I've done instead of the YouTube channel is I've allowed myself to not so much teach through instruction, but teach through people watching how I do it. That's the rationale for me joining the reality show.
That's what I do. And I know I didn't touch on the reality show. You know why? Because this is not a platform for ratings, for trending, for things that are happening on TV. Because also, even when you try and get guests, even guests who know you, like, yo, Smooth.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's just that thing, your podcast, it's like your internet. It's like Smooth maybe wants to ask me about things that are trending online or...
Yeah.
But that's not what we're about. We're about people's personal developments.
100%.
Journey, you know?
And that's why I haven't pushed it, but I felt it important to answer your question. And that was my rationale, because I'm not, you know, anyone that maybe Googles me or follows me on social media and then says, okay, but she's busy saying I wasn't trying to be that girl, but she's on a reality show. That was the rationale. The rationale was to say, instead of me teaching through, you must do this, watch me do it. Watch me rebuild. Watch me, build my life from scratch. Watch me grapple with day-to-day life. Watch my emotions come through. Watch the ugly side of being Samke Mhlongo. So that was the rationale.
I also get a lot of people who say that, but they say, you're doing really well on the Hustlers Corner, man. There's a lot of content that is being shared. We're learning so much, but we still believe you are not truly focusing on the educational aspect of what we should be getting from you. Yes, we're getting something, we want to get more. And I always remind them, like, guys, go to any American or European or any one of these international guys, you're going to pay lots of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars buying courses, going to And I always kind of believe in, this has been my entire career of sharing knowledge, mahala,
Yeah.
right? And there's a lot of people who are like, but Samke, there's just so much knowledge from you that not necessarily that we want to learn mahala. Yes, who is saying start your platform?
Yeah.
But where to from here after this interview? I know you've said what you've said. It was before this interview.
Yeah.
But after this interview, I just hope that also this interview sort of adds some sort of motivation towards your side to go start your own platform, because Tina, we're all about even encouraging other people that we know have got the knowledge to go and teach. Because a lot of us, and I'm not saying we don't teach from an aspect of, you know, not caring about people, but because we're just so busy with our lives.
Yeah.
And we think, oh, teaching, I must set up this, set up that.
Yeah.
I must put together this amount of time daily for the...
Yeah.
But I think you and I have got that responsibility to share.
We do. And to be honest, there's actually a talk show that's currently being pitched to TV channels. And that's, you know, what I want to do. So YouTube is one avenue, yes, but it's not the avenue I'm choosing.
Okay.
You know, and we people have different seasons and different, you know, dreams have different harvest seasons. My dream and my goal and the seeds I'm planting and even my entry into TV is because I actually want a TV show. Mom Felicia is a friend, a mom. She's my Atlanta mom. And she's like, girl, what are you waiting for? Just go straight into TV. So sometimes, you know, you take the stairs up and sometimes you say, I'm going to take the lift. I want you to go straight there. And that's where I am. So just because you're not seeing anything doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. Yeah. And that's what I'm working on.
So I hope our next interview will be just strictly about teaching. I'm sure a lot of you guys who have never seen her on the platform have just been introduced to her and her work. And this will also encourage you to go do some more research on her, what she does, who she is. Go buy her book. Do you have a PDF version of the book? Do you have an audio version of the book? Where do we get it? Even if I'm not in South Africa, I'm in Nigeria right now, or I'm in Australia, how do I get your works?
So the paperback and the ebook are both available on Amazon. And the physical copy, if you're in South Africa, is available at exclusive books and bargain books nationwide. And yeah, even follow me on Instagram. I do put out a lot of short snippet learning videos. And yeah, I'm doing it my way. And that's okay. And prayerfully, we'll be able to have the TV show. I do believe that the talk show, there's a gap in South Africa for a talk show that addresses the issues that we think are solved by money and are not.
What if another young person says to you, but the talk shows, that's old school. We're in 2022. Flip and broadcast daily like what Sbu is doing on the Hustlers Corner. We're sitting outside with microphones. Why not?
Well, it is old school, but also what post-COVID has shown us is a real nostalgia in people. People want that comfort of, you know, that 90s talk shows and studio audience, that feel of the familiar, because we've been disrupted so much. So there is definitely a space. That's why you're seeing reruns, and not even reruns, but reimaginings of shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, of Gossip Girl, of, you know, Blackish in the color of Martin Lawrence, the sitcom. You know, so I look at things from a global perspective. When I do something, I like doing something big. And of course, people say, don't despise small beginnings. But, you know, just talk to me in a year's time and let's see where I am. And if I've still got nothing to show to you, then the following day I'll post a YouTube video. But give me another year.
The last question I'm going to ask you, the importance of being Afro-conscious, even when building a global business or building yourself as a global brand.
Oh, what's your biggest power? I mean, it is the African Renaissance worldwide. The world is listening. The world is hungry for African content, African products, African people. And we were chatting and I was saying, even in the US, you go anywhere, it is Afro beats playing. My partner's current single biggest, accolade is the fact that he's bagged an African woman from Africa. And so, you lead with that. Lead with being African, not just in terms of heritage, but in terms of your behavior, your decorum, your consciousness, how you treat people, how you show up. When you go to the US and you see how they walk down the street and what they're wearing and how they speak, you're like, what? So lead with the fact that, guys, our heritage says, we walk tall. We're respectful of our elders. Even in the way we take pride in our appearance, it's not anti-culture to be cultured. We had decorum as Africans before. We were trading with Europe before slavery. We had African aristocrats. People don't know that before slavery. And so we need to go back to that identity of ourselves when we are Afro-conscious, as you say, and not let the world tell us what African is, but we need to start pushing back to the world and saying, this is African. An appreciation of the arts is African. An appreciation of music is African. An appreciation of cuisine is African. An appreciation of travel is African. An appreciation of being well-spoken is African. If I had $1 or a rand for every time someone said, oh, Samke Mhlongo, just because, I take pride in my languages. Is Zulu, is Zulu paka. I appreciate language full stop. It doesn't mean that because I twang, I've forgotten I'm black. No. It's because if I'm going to speak English, I'm going to speak it like the royals, as with Spanish, as with the Zulu, as with anything else. So excellence is not the preserve of the Western or the Caucasians. It's an African heritage, and we need to start treating ourselves and putting out work and content that is excellent.
Lastly, before I let you go, we invite a lot of scholars, a lot of Pan-Africanists and people that speak the African agenda on this platform. And a lot of the times I always ask them, whether on camera or off camera, is, what do we throw away? What do we keep? Because it doesn't mean that everything that came from colonization is bad or wrong. And what have you thrown away? What have you kept? What do we throw away? What do we keep?
I think that's a very good question and a very difficult question. We definitely need to throw away the idea that we are inferior to white people. We definitely need to throw that away. And we definitely need to keep the level of excellence. It's sad to see in this day and age, without the hindrances and barriers of the Group Areas Act, how some of our townships look. Sisodwa. There's no one saying we can't go out into the rest of the world to get whatever cleaning materials we need or construction materials we need. So what is is something we need to look at, especially when you look at suburbs or white-run municipalities or white-dominant suburbs and living areas. That's what I would keep. And the level of excellence, when you look at the infrastructure in South Africa, a lot of it is the legacy of the apartheid government. They built for generations, and our government builds for their term. That's just facts. And we need to learn from that, to emulate that, whilst throwing away the belief, the practice, and I guess the ingrained idea that we are inferior.
Samke.
Thank you.
After such a long time, it's so good to see you.
This was so fun.
And I think what's amazing is that we've all grown. It's exactly what I was saying earlier. We've got a lot to share. We've got a lot to teach. And I think a lot of us, just a few years ago, when this social media thing was just blowing up and starting, little did we know what it'll become. And I think we're starting to see what it's becoming. And I think a lot of us are starting to see that we can use it to change a whole lot of other young Samkes out there, a whole lot of other young Smoos out there.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that COVID-19 happened, even with its negatives, and us losing our loved ones, and may their souls rest in peace.
Amen.
But I think it forced us to wake up. I think finally in South Africa, Opapa Mayo, I'm proud of them. But let me put it this way: ongafuni ukuphaphama, phuma kuye.
That's right.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill said, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Oh, yes. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Before I let you go, your last words to the not only just young girls, to young hustlers, young entrepreneurs out there. I'm so proud of you, everything you've achieved over the past couple of years.
Thank you.
I didn't know you before the interviews we were doing at Massive, but just in the few years from Massive to now, what you've achieved, it's so incredible. And it's so amazing the person that you are becoming, and I can see you are becoming a global citizen. So I'd like for you to share your last words with our audiences out there, not only sisters, but even
Yes, our sisters, our brothers.
Which camera is it? This one or that one? Oh, over there. Oh, okay, yeah.
And those people that identify as, non-binary, where, you're able to identify yourself as that which you choose. My parting words are a quote that really helped me in one of my most difficult days. It's from the movie Queen of Katwe, where the chess trainer is telling Fiona, the chess protege from the slums of Uganda, and she asks him rather, do you think I can really go to the masters? Do you really think I can be a pro? And he says to her, where you are from is not where you belong. You belong where you believe you belong. So don't let your background define who you are, but rather let your desires and your dreams define who you are.
Sis Samke, you're incredible. You're amazing. We're so proud of everything you've achieved with all of your challenges that you've had to overcome and just grow to be, to being the person that you are becoming. We are so proud of you. Thank you for honoring us with your time. Thank you for being selfless to share the journey and the education to the younger guys out there that are coming after us. It's not always easy because we get judged and we put ourselves in the public platforms that we do, and we get criticized a lot. We get a lot of negative feedback, etc. But those that understand why they're doing that, for me, I see you as one of those people. So keep walking your journey, keep living your purpose, and thank you for the visit.
Thank you for having me.
So the name is Samke Mhlongo. She is an amazing person, and I've read her profile since from the beginning of the episode. Go learn about her, go research her, go follow her social media platforms. And it's okay, you don't have to agree with everything she believes in. Yeah. But I think this platform is for that, for us to consume information and then interrogate it. Doesn't matter whether we agree with it or we don't, but we're just dealing with all sorts of different Africans from all sorts of walks of lives, whether they're African-American, Afro-Europeans, but majority of them are like Africans, whether they're from Kenya, Nigeria, Mzansi, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, it's just a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for paying us a visit.
Anytime.
Samke Mhlongo, remember the name? Samke Mhlongo. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.
This is the Hustler's Corner.